the truth? Well, the truth of actually sitting this morning at breakfast was that the room became alive. That's the truth. You turn your back on it. Well, actually, I don't think I did at that time, but I could easily have forgotten it. And call in again the falsehood that has been expelled. Well, I think that's actually quite straightforward. But it's not straightforward from the point of view of actually what's happening. What's actually happening in my life. It may be happening, and I can read this and I can understand the symbols, but do I really understand what's really being said? Is it really speaking to me? So the falsehood that's been expelled. Well, I have a falsehood, which is an interesting one. I often think when I'm walking along or I'm doing something, I have an inner voice which says, she's doing this, she's doing that. And it's a sort of pretend person who I believe myself to be. And I'm catching myself more and more while that's happening. Anyway, so it's been expelled for the time being. Okay, now what is he talking about? If each time the power intervenes and brings in the truth, you turn your back on it and call in again the falsehood that has been expelled, it is not the divine grace that you must blame for failing you. So it's an interesting thing because the Mother and Sri Aurobindo both speak about the divine grace. The divine grace is always present. It's never, ever, it's never gone. So while I'm sitting having breakfast, I may think it's grace, but it's actually the fact that something's cleared and I've allowed the grace in. Are you allowing the grace in now? Sorry to be a teacher. Anyway, but the falsity of your own will and the imperfection of your own surrender. Now here, it's interesting, this own surrender. I'd like you to have another look at Sri Aurobindo. Have a look at him. Can you see that he has actually completely surrendered himself? He surrendered himself to creation. What? Do you want me to go back there? Why? Over here? You want the camera over here? Oh, it's following me, is it? Hello, camera. Where is it? It's a bit slow. Okay, right. Can it see me now or not? Well, I'd like you to look at Sri Aurobindo anyway. Could you have a good look at him? You see, he's completely surrendered. Oh, I better have a look. Can you see me? Oh, I'm not here. Do I need to move over? No, I'd rather you looked at Sri Aurobindo than me, actually. So have a good look. There is somebody who has completely surrendered himself to everything, to humanity, to creation. And he's spending his time looking at it. Is his gaze flickering or is his gaze constant? Is he subject to falsehood now and again? Or would you say not so, it's just the truth? It's just the truth. Okay, I'll go back. Follow me. Okay, here we go. Next bit. But the falsity of your own will and the imperfection of your own surrender. Now, here, Sri Aurobindo often speaks about surrender. And it's interesting because he says that part which is the aspirant is often the aspirant. There's not much problem there. It's the other bits of you, the vital, the lower vital, where it flickers on, it flickers off, flickers on, flickers off. Eats too much, eats too little. Okay, let's carry on. If you call for the truth, and yet something in you chooses what is false, ignorant, and undivine. You see, when he uses these words, he's not using them lightly. My mind tends to just ramble over the top and hope it's understood. But he actually has understood what falsity means. He's understood what ignorance means. Ignorance, as you know, is ignoring. It's not actually being present. You're ignoring what's actually in front of you. I talked to Robert about the other day about how I often spend my time not really enjoying things. And then when I look back, I think I had a wonderful time, but actually I was ignoring it at the time. Anyway, the ignorance and undivine. Now, when he talks about the divine, he means just the divine. He doesn't mean you let in anything else. It has to be one-pointed. If you look at him, look at his eyes. Would you say he's one-pointed, or is he all over the shop? He's not all over the shop. He's one-pointed. He's present. Or even simply unwilling, is simply unwilling to reject it altogether. So maybe just keep a little bit for me. Just a tiny bit. I think I often have an inner voice telling me what to do. And I sometimes ignore it. I ignore it, by the way, to my peril. If when I'm in bed, my inner voice says, get up, it means get up now. It's not messing about. And I find later that actually if I hadn't got up at that point, I would have missed something really important. So then always you'll be open to attack. And that attack is just waiting. Honestly, I can assure, just waiting around the corner to get me. It'll persuade me that I can do this or do that or anything. And the grace will recede from you. Well, it's not true that actually. He's not actually put it right, or he's looked at it from a different perspective. What Sri Aurobindo often does is he often speaks from the perspective of himself. And then suddenly, mid-sentence, he'll change his perspective to the aspirant. So the aspirant, or the person who's in his ashram, or me, actually thinks, well, the grace is gone. I can't remember this. I had this sublime observation, and it just, it went. Why? What was I doing? So the grace is always present, but I'm not always present. I'm the one who's receding, not the grace.